Started. Well, hello everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight for the Maroon and Gold Connections virtual event and our breakout session here, Empowering Your Career Path. I'm Kabalia Tao, Associate VP of Engagement at the University of Minnesota Alumni Association, and your moderator for this session. I'll be monitoring the chat. I'll be taking down questions. But with that, I definitely love for us to get the show on the road. So it really is my honor and my privilege to introduce you to our speaker this evening, Becky Hall. Becky provides project management and leadership for coordinating career initiatives at the University of Minnesota, including graduate outcomes measurement, vendor selection, contract processing, program development, and event management. She partners with colleagues across the University of Minnesota system, including significant work with Student Affairs, Global Programs and Strategy Alliance, and institutional research. Becky is actively involved in many professional organizations and has served as president and on the executive board of the Minnesota Career Development Association. She has a MA in counseling and student personnel psychology from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities and a bachelor's of science in psychology and gerontology from the University of Minnesota Duluth. So Becky, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. And thanks for being here with me tonight. I'm happy to talk with you on the topic of empowering your career path. During our time here today, we'll first introduce the concept of career development. Then, knowing that people are in different phases in their own career and possibly in a career or job search, we'll spend some time talking about the job search and seeking out new opportunities. Next, I'll focus in on ways to empower yourself on the job. And then finally, we'll wrap up by giving you a bit of time to consider your own next steps and commitments you can make to yourself before opening up for discussion and Q&A. To get us all to the same starting point, let's just first define career empowerment. There are a lot of resources and information available to employers, whether they're in human resources or serving in a supervisory role, about ways to empower employees toward their career success. But what we're talking about here tonight is more inwardly focused on you. So from Indeed.com, here's a definition that specifies ways in which you can potentially empower your own career. Career empowerment is the act of controlling your own work environment as you're able and using your skills and talents in a way that benefits you and your organization, leading to more productivity and better outcomes. These successes can, in turn, promote greater opportunities for career growth and satisfaction in the workplace. We can't talk about the job search without first speaking to the nature of today's job market. These past couple of years have shifted so much in our lives, including how we pursue opportunities and are recruited and hired into work, as well as how we actually do the work once we're hired. One of the COVID pandemic's many impacts has been and continues to be its fallout in the workplace. The resulting pivots made in how and where we work led to what many of us have heard called the Great Resignation, originally coined as such by Anthony Klotz, an associate professor of management at Texas A&M University during an interview with Bloomberg Businessweek. Or you may have heard it referred to as the Big Quit, or possibly the Great Reshuffling. No matter what you call it, there is, in my opinion, a misguided but common perception out there that this movement that people don't want to work. In reality, there are a myriad of factors which led to this Great Resignation across today's workforce, including subpar compensation or wage stagnation, people wanting to find a greater sense of purpose in their work, a need for greater work-life balance, including for many the flexibility to work remotely, and a need for alignment of one's work or workplace with their personal values systems. In addition, as we came into January of 2022, we were at a 4.0% unemployment rate, which for all intents and purposes is considered full employment. Between the Great Resignation and our collective high employment, now is an opportune time for you to be pursuing ways to grow as a professional, either within your current role or to consider ways to position yourself for that next career move. As an early career professional, it can be difficult to strike a balance between what you're learning and or taking on as a new professional with your desire to grow and position yourself for that next step on your career path. But here are a few things to consider. Learning opportunities are out there. Ask for them. Is there a technology resource that you keep hearing about in staff meetings and one-to-one interactions with colleagues that you don't know much about, but it continues to come up as a resource people are using to help? Maybe with streamlining communications campaigns or creating solid data visualizations. Are there training options available to help get you more up to speed with that technology? Also, pay attention to what others are saying that they need. Are you able to help out? For example, if a colleague has been tasked with carrying out an annual company event, are they looking for ways to streamline pieces of the planning process? Do you have the bandwidth to help provide support on that initiative? Ask if there is a piece of this work that you can help to pick up for them. Take on stretch projects. First of all, try to look at your work through a project-based lens. This perspective can make work feel much more manageable, as projects are neatly defined through time-based constraints and output expectations. At work, show initiative by being attentive to the needs of your organization and offer to take an active role in project-based work as you're able to. Are there pieces to a project that you can support? Is there a project-based initiative that you can help to lead? Be willing to stretch. The gig economy isn't just about flexibility and the potential for supplemental income, although those things are great, don't get me wrong. But going back to that Great Resignation and sense of purpose, many people, likely even some of you here today, have either taken a pause or are considering a more substantial career shift. Finding the right kind of project-based work inside of your organization may not be what you need to stretch yourself professionally or to get the needed experience outside of your industry. Consider looking into project-based work in the gig economy. With the need for talent so great right now, there are plenty of opportunities for you to lend your talent to support project-based needs on a shorter-term basis. Consider some of these resources named here as places to explore different gig types of opportunities. One important note to mention here regarding stretching for new opportunities before we move on has to do with the gender gap in terms of pursuit of opportunities. According to an analysis of job application rates across gender differences done by Tara Sophia Moore of the Harvard Business Review, women for various reasons may feel they need to meet 100% of the criteria for a job, whereas men will more often apply even if they only meet about 60% of those requirements. Based on applicant tracking data from LinkedIn over the course of all of 2018 in its Gender Insights report, women are 16% less likely than men to apply to a job after viewing it. And women apply to 20% fewer jobs overall than men. So for the women here today, keep this in mind as you move forward in your pursuit of growth opportunities. Related to job search, I want to be sure to mention Handshake. Handshake is available to all University of Minnesota students from all 5 system campuses in a degree program or to University of Minnesota alumni. Handshake is the university's software platform used for jobs and internships. Here, you can see that we have a lot of opportunities that are posted for our students and alumni. In more than half of the jobs that have been posted over the last 6 months, employers have indicated they are either open to or are seeking alumni talent. In addition to the many opportunities on Handshake, It is also a great tool for you if you're looking to either learn about companies in various industry sectors or are looking for specific contacts at a given organization. With over 30,000 companies or organizations and nearly 70,000 plus recruiter contacts, Handshake can be a rich resource for you to start expanding your network and outreach. In your job search, career fairs are another resource to consider taking advantage of, and I want to call out just a couple of examples for you here. The University of Minnesota Job and Internship Fair. This particular event, coming up next Friday, is open to current students and alumni up to 3 years post-graduation. When attending career fairs, look at employers by industry area, not just by name. You may surprise yourself by engaging with opportunities you didn't even know existed with organizations you'd never heard of or thought about working for previously. To the more experienced alumni here with us today, Career Force Minnesota provides a search tool that you can use to find upcoming career-related events and fairs throughout Minnesota. In addition, if you are not involved with a professional association, this can be a great way to network, both formally and informally. For example, in my own professional area, the Minnesota Career Development Association hosts regular events that provide an opportunity for professional development and for networking with colleagues. The U.S. Department of Labor's Career One Stop hosts a tool referenced here that is quite useful in terms of looking up professional associations by industry or occupation name. As I'd mentioned when talking about the Great Resignation and our overall employment rate, how we work and how we search for jobs has changed in the past 2 years. It remains to be seen what recruiting and the job search will look like long term. But it's safe to say that, at least for the near future, there is definitely a place for virtual in the process. To give some perspective from research done by our partners at Handshake, in its 2021 Who Wins with Virtual Recruiting Trends report, on a 5-point scale, students rated the virtual fair video experience at a 4.4 and employers at a 4.2, both very favorable. Potentially opening up greater opportunities for access and equity, more women students than men and more students of color than white students prefer virtual career events and interviews over in person. And more than 3 in 4 employers predict that even after the pandemic has subsided, they will continue to engage college students remotely. As you move through the job search process, one important consideration is, of course, your overall compensation, with the largest component of this being your pay or salary. In the job search, there is lots of research for you to do. To stand out amongst other applicants or interviewees, you will need to learn about your job prospects, organizational culture, high demand skills sets, and opportunities for professional growth and advancement. You will also serve yourself well to do your best due diligence in salary research. After all, you can't get more money if you don't ask for it. And because raises are often calculated from your base pay, a higher salary ultimately means higher raises down the road. There are lots of tools available for you to use, and one I personally find to be relatively useful and reliable is Glassdoor. This resource provides you with self-reported salary metrics from people working in your field or at a given company. You can also use Glassdoor to look into market comparisons across geographic areas. One recent trend worth noting has been pay transparency requirements for employers. These include wage range disclosure obligations that require employers to provide or publicize wage ranges for vacant positions or promotions. Specifically, several states have enacted pay transparency laws, with Colorado having the strictest requirements, having employers disclose the pay or pay range, and other forms of compensation of a position in the posting itself. If you are negotiating a job offer or are advocating for a salary raise for yourself, know the value add you bring to the organization. As a job seeker, for example, are there ways you can quantify your potential contributions to the organization based on your past successes? If you are pursuing a salary raise, how can you quantify your output in terms of increased revenue, new clientele, or time saved? Here is another area where I want to make sure to make a specific call out for the women in attendance tonight. Negotiation takes a level of assertiveness of all of us, but this can oftentimes be viewed as an unlikable trait in a woman. And for those from here in Minnesota, there may be a heightened concern over the need to be Minnesota nice. Please consider ways in which you can practice being more assertive to learn how to advocate on your own behalf. At the end of the day, the exchange of your talent and time in service to the organization is a business transaction. Sometimes there truly isn't room to budge on your rate of pay in terms of an hourly wage or salary. But compensation is about more than just money. Consider what else you may be able to negotiate. What is available for vacation time or paid time off? Is there flexibility in terms of 401k matching or vesting timeframes? One area that has become so much more important to people, especially over these past couple of years, is the ability to work remotely. If working remotely or having a flexible working situation or schedule is important to you, is this a negotiable as part of your job offer or with your current employer? As an early career professional, it's advisable to get into the practice of seeking out feedback at work. We all stand to learn from feedback, even or possibly especially when it's not the feedback we want to hear. Most workplaces have some sort of formalized annual review process in place, most of the time with your direct supervisor. Annual reviews can be a good starting point for a sort of feedback loop. But if you're only doing a once-a-year check-in against a set of goals or metrics, it's not likely very useful to you in terms of helping you know how your work is being perceived and how you are being perceived as a professional. Your supervisor is the most obvious point person to consider when seeking out feedback, and they should hopefully know your work output and have perspective on how you're progressing at your organization. If they share points of feedback that you disagree with, it's better to know this ahead of when it comes time to document your performance metrics in any formalized review. That way, you can seek out ways to grow and develop your skills and take corrective actions throughout the year so that there aren't any end-of-year surprises. There are also other key people in your work life who may also be great sources of feedback. The first being your peer colleagues. You spend most of your time at work with your peers, and they have a better line of sight to your effectiveness in terms of project outcomes and your working style. Because there is no power differential between you and your peers, you can ask for and offer to provide feedback on a more frequent and less formal basis. And lastly, if you are in a position where you supervise others, consider seeking out feedback. Again, we all can learn and grow from feedback, and the boss is no exception. To continue to grow as a leader, you need to create a culture of trust for your team to be open with you. If necessary, set up anonymous 360-degree feedback loops, or seek out one or two trusted people who will give you the honest feedback you need. On the job, it's important to let your manager know about your career goals. While we're talking here today about what you can do to empower movement on your own career path, you want to keep your manager informed about your career goals too. In their role, your manager will be in conversations and meetings with others that you simply are not a part of. If they know what your goals are, they may be able to help advocate for you and your role with other teams or higher level management about any upcoming project before you're even aware that the project is being considered, or at the beginning stages of a project when it's being planned out. Some of you may wonder if it really is advisable to talk with your manager about your career goals. To help illustrate the importance of this, I'd like to share an example from a meeting I had back in December with a colleague who is a manager of a large team at a Fortune 500 company. This particular individual really tries to focus on how he can be a supportive manager. He meets regularly with team members to talk about their goals, not just at the required 6-month and annual review intervals. And he's known for being someone who has an open door policy and prides himself on being approachable. He shared with me how disappointed he was to have lost a new rising star on his team who had accepted a position outside of the company. In her exit interview, she shared with him that while she loved the company and working on the team, she wanted to grow her skills with some newer technology tools. She was afraid that if she spoke up so early in her career, she might be perceived as being difficult or arrogant, and thought she needed to move in order to get the growth opportunity that she was seeking. His disappointment and frustration was more a result of her not having come to him, as he knew from higher level meetings he'd just recently been in that his team would soon be managing a project to implement one of those new technology tools she brought up in that exit interview. Had she come to him to express her interest, she may have had the opportunity to grow her desired skill set at a company and with a team she already very much liked. Whether in the job search or on the job, no matter what stage you're at in your career, your network is one of your most important professional assets. For many people, the whole idea of networking can conjure up a mental image of glad handing with a bunch of strangers in a crowded room. This is not what networking should be about. In fact, when done right, successful networking can help you to meet industry acquaintances, establish business partnerships, and learn about industry trends and job prospects. To help make networking less intimidating, approach each interaction as a mutually beneficial conversation. Think ahead of time about what you would like to get from the conversation. And as much as you're able to ahead of time, consider what you bring to the conversation. What can you give back? Consider your purpose for growing your network. Are you looking to learn about ways to grow your skill set? Are you looking for job prospects? Are you looking to relocate to another city or state? Do you want to learn more about working at a given company? Now, who are the people in your network who can help you to achieve your purpose? Who do you work with? Who did you formerly work with? What about professors or teachers? Coaches? How about your friends? What about your family? What about the family of friends? People in your neighborhood? Many of the people I just referenced are not necessarily people you may consider as being in your network, but they are. We just don't always find ourselves having professionally oriented conversations with those closest to us. And then finally, I just want to be sure to call out the Maroon and Gold Network here at the University of Minnesota. After all, we're here tonight at the University of Minnesota Alumni Association's Maroon and Gold Networking event. If you haven't explored it, this is a great tool for you to use to start establishing an online network with our own University of Minnesota alumni. The name of our session, again, is Empowering Your Career Path. In relation to this topic, I've been sharing with you here tonight around the concept of career empowerment, some of the factors in the makeup of today's job market, job search tools, resources, and tactics, and ways to stretch and grow on the job as an early career professional. Based on what you have heard here and where you are in your own career journey, I want to pose a question for each of you to consider. What can you commit to today? Think about one concrete step that you can identify today to help you move forward in empowering your own career. Maybe it's jotting down the names of 2 or 3 of the people in your network who you hadn't previously thought about as being in your network, and planning a timeline for when you will make time to reach out to each one of those people. Maybe you need to designate dedicated time to dive into a resource like Handshake to get a better sense of what job titles and roles align with your own next step career goals. According to research done by Gail Matthews out of Dominican University in California, 42% of us, we're 42% more likely to achieve our goals when we write them down. So I'm going to have us take a few minutes here tonight for you to pause, think about, and write down your next step career goal. What can you commit to today? So we're going to pause here, and let's take just a little under 5 minutes for you to consider and then write down an actionable next step career goal that you feel like you can commit to today. Go. You can probably see in the chat, we were welcoming people to come in if folks are willing to. No pressure, honestly, no pressure. But I am wondering if anyone would be open to sharing here what they wrote down.
Hello.
Hi.
So I was considering what you were saying about, the greater networks we don't think about and stuff. And well, there was one time my dad reached out to someone at his work that's in the field that I'm sort of looking at, like sustainability director, and I ended up talking with this lady and I got her contact info. And I haven't reached out to her in a while. So I guess I could reach out to her sometime, and ask if she knows about open positions that are akin to hers, or my partner's best friend is also in the same sort of field, and I think she's graduating before me as well, so she might be a good person to reach out to.
Wyatt, thanks a lot for sharing. I appreciate you bringing that out. And yep, you're absolutely right. I think you've kind of identified a couple of next step goals that you can take. I don't know if you wrote them down, but we heard you here. So yeah, just hearing you articulate that, that's great. Yep, I think that's a really important thing to consider is when I was talking about networks, it's also about maintaining those networks and reaching out to those people maybe you've made connections with in the past. So great opportunity. Thank you very much. I'm going to just move us forward here just briefly. Take a look here. We've got some resources that you'll be able to get access to after the fact, but these are kind of a lot of the resources that were referenced here tonight during my talk. And then honestly, we're just at that point where we're going to open up for Q&A or discussion. I want to thank you very much all for being here. I appreciate this opportunity, and I wish each of you the best in your career journey. Let's see who else we are hearing from here.
All right, and feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section or in the chat, or if you'd like to turn on your camera, I'm here as well too, so I'm monitoring all three sections, and would love to hear any questions that you have. Becky, I just to start out, I definitely have a question for you. You showed a great slide that said, I think it was like men were 20, or after women read job descriptions, they oftentimes will opt not to apply for the positions. And I wonder, I've been in similar situations where I've read through and I'm like, I don't think I, meet all the qualifications. And then I see another person come into that role, and a lot of the things that I've done actually are equal or more than that individual. And I was just wondering, how do we continue to encourage ourselves to apply for something or step outside the box to be able to get these positions that we want?
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And I think part of it is just making this information around those statistics more known to people. That definitely is one piece. One thing that I think I've seen some potential movement on here too, especially during this time when it's harder for people to source talent, is a little bit of opening up on qualifications and people being really mindful as they're hiring to be thinking about what really truly are my required qualifications and what might be preferred. And so as people are moving a little bit more towards things that normally may have stood as a required qualification for opportunities, I think we all, no matter kind of where we're coming from, need to be looking at opportunities a bit more with an open mind as well. And that people probably do have some flexibility. Again, it's a bit of a buyer's market here right now. I think it's worth it for folks to be willing to dip your toes in a little bit. Maddie, thank you very much for sharing. So congratulations on, I'm going to say, yes, you are absolutely going to succeed at this, and happy to know that you're graduating from graduate school here coming up this spring. And yep, absolutely. Think about those people that you're meeting in those trainings, and kind of, as you're leaving, and we have a networking session coming up here, not too long down the road. For those of you here on our session here tonight, be capturing people's information. How can you take that conversation further? Other questions? Kathleen, I'm going to leave this to you.
Yes, we can definitely post the slides, Maddie. And there's after this, one, I have your name here, so I can definitely share it out this way. But I believe that we will be sharing, have an opportunity for everyone to access the slides after this event as well too. So no matter what happens, I will make sure that you have a copy, Maddie.
Wonderful.
Hey, Shua, that's a great question. Shua's asking, I'm curious if other sessions are also recorded so we can watch at another time. And yes, all the sessions are recorded, and we should be sending those out once this event is over as well too. Great question, Shua. Thank you.
I'm not sure what the timeline is on that, and sometimes there might need to be a bit of a pause. Sometimes with recording of these, there needs to be some captioning that's done before things can go out for folks. So I'm not sure kind of where that might be, but yeah, look for those.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great point. I mean, even Becky and I had been sitting in the session maybe about 20 or 30 minutes before folks started jumping on. So I'm sure the first half of this will just be us sitting here together.
It would be a little bit not too terribly exciting for you all. Other thoughts that are coming up for folks. What jumped out at you? We heard from Maddie, we heard from Wyatt. Anyone else open to sharing kind of what that next step piece may be? Oh, yep, and from one of the organizers, we did just have it verified. Yes, these will be posted out to YouTube after the fact. Well, again, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. It's been a pleasure and an honor to talk to you. I wish you all the best on your career journey.